By 1968, Enoch Powell had become a recognizable political figure, but a colleague detected worrying symptoms. Poor Enoch, he remarked, driven mad by the remorselessness of his own logic. Powell was now developing an ideology markedly to the right of Ted Heath's, above all on the taboo subject of race. Powell was alarmed at what he saw as the dangers of coloured immigration to the British nation. His views seemed to contrast sharply with his professed love for India.
India is India, and England is England. And an Englishman can have a love for India without wishing to see India on the streets of Birmingham.
The issue of race was to bring Powell into confrontation with Heath. Powell decided to quote directly from the experiences with immigrants of his white constituents. Only parts of that polemical speech were filmed, but Powell has kept his original text. He began by attacking the Labour government's bill that outlawed racial discrimination.
The discrimination and the deprivation, the sense of alarm and of resentment lie not with the immigrant population, but with those among whom they have come and are still coming. This is why to enact legislation of the kind before Parliament at this moment is to risk throwing a match onto gunpowder.
Powell quoted a letter he said he'd received about an elderly widow living in Wolverhampton, the only white resident left in her street. He quoted from the letter, "She's becoming afraid to go out. Windows are broken. She finds excreta pushed through her letterbox. When she goes to the shop, she's followed by children, charming, wide-grinning pickaninnies. They cannot speak English, but one word they know, racialist, they chant."
Those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad. We must be mad. Literally mad as a nation to be permitted the annual inflow of
so the speech goes. The point I wanted to make was really at the beginning of this quote about Powell being driven mad by the remorselessness of his own logic. What did Iain McLeod mean by this? I would say that it is cognitive dissonance that we are driven mad by. What is cognitive dissonance? It is being told one thing and being expected to reconcile the statement that one is being told with the reality of the situation. This can drive people mad. A good example would be we have a certain view of ourselves. Maybe we think we are exceptionally good when we are exceptionally bad. And these conditions have names such as egotism, Dunning-Kruger, lack of self-awareness, all these things. That suggests that we don't, we have lost touch with reality when we don't, when the story that we believe about ourselves is not the same as what others believe of us. And eventually, this will drive the person mad. Or at least neurotic. So with regard to white people, I think they are being driven mad. They are being driven mad by this idea that they have to, that they are the privileged imperialists enjoying white privilege, but actually they don't feel so privileged and feel rather put upon, victimized because of the colour of their skin. So which is true? Well, I have a few ideas, but you see, I don't really get a chance to talk to people who really get it. I'm always wrestling with people who are determined to deny what I'm trying to say, probably because it's not in harmony with their self-image of their traditions and their imperial pride or ideas of masculinity, etc. And so the first stage of the 5 stages of grief is denial. And we seem to be stuck at this stage because people I know are denying this fact that something's wrong. So what is our problem with accepting the fact that Christianity is kaput, and it's so kaput that its replacement of liberalism is also kaput? It must be their pride, their deadly sin of pride. How can they pretend that Christianity is working properly when the past 250 years is about revolutions, rejecting monarchy and Christianity? And yet when you tell them, they don't get it. They change the subject. They talk about something else. Now, where was I? I was talking about people being in denial because of their pride, because, their story of white supremacy, white privilege, their sense of masculinity is at odds with my narrative of being the people whose religion has crashed and burned, whose religion has been failing for 500 years, and in particular the last 250 years, which is about the rejection of Christianity with liberalism and socialism and nationalism. So basically, white people have already tried to replace liberalism, but without somehow officially acknowledging their failure too. So you get coupled Christianity replaced by liberalism. The revolutions and wars of the 20th century was about liberalism not working very well, certainly not amongst the Europeans, and so they decided to branch off with nationalism in amongst the central powers of Germany and Italy, and socialism in the former Soviet Union. So it should be obvious to historians that all the wrong ways have been tried. How do we know that Christianity has failed? It should be obvious. it should have been obvious by 1918 when Christendom entered, when the Kaiser abdicated in 1918, when the Romanovs, when the entire royal family of the Romanovs were exterminated by the Red Guard. Now, we have to go back to the logic of Enoch Powell's let me start again. Enoch Powell was a politician, and he was being pulled apart by two horses. One is, of course, his political ambition of becoming British Prime Minister, and the other is genuine concern for his people, his constituents, who were being overwhelmed by mass immigration. I don't think he was exaggerating when he read out what had happened to that widow who had written to him about how a peaceful street had been taken over by immigrants, by the delinquent children who were terrorizing her, who had been given the word racialist, which was the old word for racist, to call her when she, I guess, showed signs of disapproval and dislike for their activities. And so Powell felt he had to say something on behalf of his constituents, perhaps in the hope of somehow establishing his political career. Should his gamble turn out well, that his famous rivers of blood speech in some way propelled him to power. We don't know. Well, I wouldn't, even with the benefit of hindsight, have known how to advise him. What would have been the point of becoming Prime Minister and not being known for anything? I think it was really quite right for him to say what he thought was the subject of the times, immigration, and that is really what made him memorable. Imagine if he had kept quiet, then nothing of interest would have been, he wouldn't be even spoken about. So I think, on the whole, if you're thinking of in terms of a political career, why doesn't one even want a political career? It's because at some level the person in politics actually wants to be remembered, at least to be in the footnotes of some history textbook, and this Powell has managed to do by sacrificing his career in order to do what is supposed to be done by honourable, principled politicians. Now, it was Iain McLeod who said that of Powell. He used to be a friend of Powell and I guess abandoned him after he made his fateful speech. I mentioned this discussion about the remorselessness of one's own logic, because I think in some way it might apply to me. Now, my logic is that I'm the only one with a respectable solution. I say it's respectable because it is morally and intellectually defensible. But the problem is, no one wants to discuss it because they are Islamophobes like Jay and all the others who really conspire not to discuss it. And I've been thinking a little bit about why they refuse. Yesterday there was a upload of the interview that Mark Collett had with Five Pillars, the Muslim channel in which Dilly Hussein interviewed Nick Griffin, Jim Dawson, and finally Mark Collett. I hope Dilly will be interviewing more people, maybe Eddie Butler, maybe Millennial Woes. That would be fun for all of us, or maybe even me. I have a sense that Muslims don't much want to talk to me, because the ones who understand my position will know that I am actually claiming that secular Quranism will be more popular with Westerners than their kind of Islam, because secular Quranism is Sharia for non-Muslims, and obviously I will be interpreting it in a different way to their kind of Sharia. And I guess they don't really want to talk about it because they can't easily prove that everything I say about Islam must be wrong because I'm not Muslim or am only a woman, or whatever reason they can cook up to say that secular Quranism should be ignored. I rather think that Muslims should support secular Quranism, or if not, talk about it with each other, because it is the only viable solution around. I can't think of any. I literally don't know of any other competing solution around. Can you? So, back to the subject of logic. So, my logic is, if matriarchy is a problem, then patriarchy is the solution. If patriarchy is the solution, if patriarchy is the destination, then theocracy must be the vehicle. Is anybody going to deny that? I suppose these are big words, too big for people who only reason through their emotions and only think, wow, how do these people think? How do these Islamophobes think? Well, I think the problem with nationalists is that they can only quote reason, unquote, through their hatred of Jews and Muslims, and they can't decide whether they hate Jews more or Muslims more, and that's why they can't make up their minds. What I'd like them to do is really to ask themselves whether Christianity is kaput, but I think it's because of their character defect of pride that they can't bring themselves to do it. None of them are Christians, and even those of them claiming to be Christian would be theologically ignorant. And those of them who are theologically ignorant are not able to discuss the topic of the Trinity because, well, A, I think they're too lazy to look it up, and B, they don't fancy losing the argument to me, and C, I think they already know that Christianity is kaput. but they don't want to admit it because, like Jay Walker, he senses that the moment they admit that Christianity is kaput, I will be offering them secular Quranism, and they don't want to think of excuses to reject it, and they don't want to be able to think of excuses other than, we don't like it, we don't want to, you can't make us. Now, on the question of whether I have been driven mad by the remorselessness of my own logic, I don't think so. I am very confident that I'm correct, and just because people won't agree with me, citing the usual reasons of, oh, I don't think it's going to happen, I don't think you're going to succeed, but that is really not a good enough reason to acknowledge the truth of my propositions. And to remind you again, my proposition is that Christianity is kaput. Two, Christianity is so kaput that liberalism, which replaced it, is also kaput. Three, liberalism in the 21st century means nothing more than sexual liberation from the rules of marriage and good parenting. Next proposition, because liberalism is nothing more than sexual liberation from the rules of marriage and good parenting, we are now a degenerate matriarchy. Next proposition, if the problem is matriarchy, then the solution must be patriarchy. Next proposition, if patriarchy is a destination, then theocracy must be the vehicle. I've lost my train of thought. Two phone calls in one stream, that is quite a lot, isn't it? That they're just callers. Now, what was it? Oh yes, the propositions. So if patriarchy is the destination, then theocracy must be the vehicle. And what else is there but secular Quranism? That's my series of logical propositions that no one can undermine. And unfortunately, because nobody really gets it about logic, they won't even try to undermine it. They'll just say, well, we don't like it, we don't wanna, you can't make us. I don't wonder how long they will continue to say this, because all things are looking pretty shitty now, aren't they? We already know what the matriarchy is doing. It's importing men of fighting age from who are not white, from other nations into the West to do the stuff that white men are not able to do. That is the plan and the policy. And it seems that Western men are very far from acknowledging that even white people, well, especially white people, well, no, all people need a moral system, and not having one is like not having an immune system, an immune system, and this means being destroyed by your internal and external enemies without being able to organize anything at all except more expressions of denial, which I have to say provokes only contempt and pity. Now I know the problem about not having an official religion is that you just don't have an organizing force. I talk to boomers as well as younger people, and I know that the boomers were their habit of preferring legacy media are just not getting their news. They're not being informed because what they're getting through legacy media is propaganda from their matriarchy, which I suppose some of them want to continue believing in because the alternative is too terrible. Now, I also know that younger generations of white men find it impossible to discuss politics with their fathers if they've been lucky enough to have met them. So I don't see how this organizing force is going to come from because the generations are divided by the generation gap, and also people are divided by race. Genders are divided by, well, gender. And people that are supposed to be talking about these things don't do it properly. They only want to appear to be discussing these things, but not enough to be not enough to get them into trouble. So they will say nothing clearly, and they do their nudge nudge, wink wink. We all know what we're talking about, don't we? Because we're all middle class and educated. But it's not enough, is it? And as a political parties were their sort, I guess nothing is going to happen. Hi, Vincent, do you want to join me? I think I've finished now anyway. I'll send you the link. Yes, I've sent you the link. Good, good. You don't want to get me going on about the remorselessness of my own logic, which I have either been driven mad by or not. But what if I'm the only sane person around? That would be rather worse for you lot. Hi, Vincent.
Hello.
How have you been?
Hold on. Hold on. Are you there?
Okay. Yes, yes.
Why isn't this working through my headset? Hold on 1 second. Hold on.
Mm-hmm. Waiting patiently.
Hello?
Yes. No more
you
echo.
You can hear me better now?
Yeah, there's no more echo.
Okay. How are you?
I'm fine. I think I've got it off my chest.
What was it about?
Oh, well, yesterday I scheduled a stream yesterday with Jay, and I was called away to visit a friend, and it took longer than I thought, and so I didn't get back until 7. And basically he's pretending I'm chickening out when actually the moment I realized I'd forgotten about him, I said, oh, I'm happy to reschedule later on this evening. And he went, no. And he's still going on about it because he thinks, thinks I'm in some sort of weak position or something. And I said, you can come anytime. We can talk about truth, logic, and morality, and the difference between valid and sound arguments anytime. And he's saying no. And I think he's actually relieved that he was saved being interrogated on his understanding of the difference between valid and sound arguments, and he's trying to insult me so that I will cancel it forever. And I'm saying no. The offer remains open, and and I'm sure he will, just go away for a few months and hope I will have forgotten, which is his usual tactic.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
that's it really. Well, I mean, what do you think of Jay anyway?
Well, I mean, I don't know him that well. I haven't watched him that intently. But, obviously he's a Christian and, Sermon on the Mount. And it's kind of like, what does all that mean? And, well, it's just that it's that I've kind of gotten addicted to expecting like a rule system or something that is like a rule system rather than a philosophy necessarily, though the idea in Islam, it is a philosophy that God cannot take shape and God cannot be many. Well, okay, Islam is a little bit not a good example because Islam is more of a religion than the Noahide laws. It's, a little bit more of like, telling you what to think. But, I was thinking about fucking emo monk wanting to be a fucking magician and, all this stuff that I can't even fucking understand. And Christianity is a little bit more like that than Islam and Judaism.
Well, because of its hocus pocus and mumbo jumbo.
Well,
Is
yeah.
that what you mean?
Yeah, hocus pocus, mumbo jumbo, nonsense. And, so I don't have a lot of
Because it's
respect.
illogical. That's why it drives them mad. They can't explain it. And the only way they could ever defend themselves is by, burning heretics at the stake. And I'm just saying, if the Americans, ever got their Christian amendment passed, they will actually be going back, several centuries into history and just forgetting, all about the American, French, and Russian revolutions. because obviously these Christian nationalists want a Christian amendment passed, like declaring that America is a Christian republic, and therefore Christians get privilege over other religions, and that would mean the end of the First Amendment. I know they haven't thought it through because they don't know, they don't, and I think so many Westerners don't understand their own history because they don't understand Christianity. I mean, I was talking to somebody older than me today, and so I just mentioned that the 30 Years' War. I mean, I'm not saying that I learned it at school, and so he didn't learn it at school either, but I think in the generations before me, they would be learning about stuff like the Holy Roman Empire, the wars of the Reformation, because they still took Christianity seriously, and the kind of I mean, even if it's not quite right, they'd be sort of saying, oh, but the Catholics were so evil. Look at the Inquisition, and oh, they were being so mean to the Anglicans and burnt them at the stake, and selling indulgences, etc. But there would be at least some discussion of Christian history, and it's like in my generation, it's just not even discussed. Nobody's interested, and I think this is so important to Western identity.
Well, they want to get rid of it because they're embarrassed of it, and nobody's Christian anymore.
Because it ended in 1918, and I think you get it that when Kaiser William abdicated in 1918 after the First World War, and the Tsar and his family were exterminated also in 1918. Christendom had ended more or less because they were the most powerful Christian kingdoms in Europe. And they were all gone. France used to be the most powerful Christian kingdom, and then it was the Holy Roman, and before that was the Holy Roman Empire, and then east of that was the Russian Empire. All gone. I mean, the only one left was the British Empire. The British monarchy, which is still going because, and I think the Americans are keen to keep it going because it's the British monarchy that holds on to the territories of the British territories of Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, which is crucial to the operation of the American Empire, the American Marine Empire. So they don't, basically they don't want Australia to be, holding a referendum and saying, oh, we're independent now. We're not going to have a foreign policy to be dictated to by the British Crown, which is what is in fact happening at the moment, because what they have in Canada, Australia, New Zealand is the position of the Governor General, who has the right to dismiss any elected prime minister. So, and this actually happened in 1975 with Gough Whitlam, provoking a constitutional crisis. And it's like I've spoken to Australians about it, and I guess they still want to think that they live in a sovereign country. So I said, what about this Governor General thing? It's obviously, an imperial position. The Governor General is there to control the army. And he can dismiss, these elected prime ministers. I mean, it still says it, but people don't get it, and they want to think that, they are actually an independent country. So I'm saying, it's their pride that, prevents them from acknowledging the reality of their position.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. And yeah, I mean, the fact that they don't want full independence and that Governor General is still there. And this is what I'm talking about. Nobody is red hot. And, I was talking to my, therapists about this, and I miss that overwhelming red hot, that red hot conviction, in that once you leave cults, nobody's red hot. You would think, like, somebody like me who's red hot, I just wouldn't tolerate that. I'd be like, this is horrible. We shouldn't have a governor general, and I'd be campaigning all across the country to have it shut down. And let me tell you, all those Australian people would tell me to fuck off. They wouldn't give a shit. They would just tell me I was crazy and fanatical and all these other kinds of things. And well, then, Canada had its parliament dissolved by the governor general. Did you know that?
Oh, did it? When?
Wait, hold on. Canada
This week?
parliament. No, dissolved by governor general. This was like in the 80s or something. Let me just say. Wait, hold on. Canada did have its governor general's office reminds Canadians they can't dissolve. Where is it? Okay, governor general dissolves parliament. I think this was under the father Trudeau. Trudeau launches Canada into federal election. Why did it dissolve? Trudeau went to Rideau Hall Sunday to ask why installed Governor General Mary Simon to dissolve Parliament, which triggers elections. Canada's. I know that. Wait, hold on. Canada Parliament was dissolved by the Governor General. It did happen. It did.
I wonder what the issue was about. Okay, so
I'm trying to find it.
I'll look now. Yeah, and all these shenanigans, it's such a jip. Really, it's like, okay, after World War II, the British, okay, that before the end of World War II, Canada was just called British Dominion, including New Zealand, including Australia, Dominion. And it means, it's dominated by the mother country, which is Britain. I mean, that's what it meant. But I think, after World War II, the government thought, shit, we didn't really win the war, did we? We're just completely, we've had the stuffing knocked out of us. We just know we're going to be kicked out of all our colonies, and India was a jewel in the British crown. And indeed, they couldn't, the British couldn't wait to leave India. I mean, to the extent that Indians kind of blamed the British, like, you got out so quickly, you just drew this line and to separate Pakistan and India, and then you just ran away and you left us, and and we just killed each other during partition. And and I guess some Indians with a bit more maturity said, yeah, but we didn't have to kill each other just because the British left. But that was what happened in the move. And that's why I keep telling all these idiotic Americans saying, oh, there'll be some peaceful separation, amicable divorce and crap like that. It's like, well, you're going to be arguing about who's going to leave and who's going to stay, and where people are going to go. You're not going to have anything remotely ready to for any. I mean, they're just completely unprepared. So anyway, I don't think there's going to be any peaceful separation or anything of the sort. I mean, it's all just fond fantasies, and so much is involved in debating the actual meaning of words, and sort of people not knowing, like, oh, Commonwealth, what does that really mean? I think it still means empire, but sort of, not so, lowering in status of the colonies.
Okay, I'm reading this. So the Harper government asked the inspector general or whatever they're called, governor general, to dissolve parliament, kicking off. Well, they had to have new elections over it. I don't know. It's hard, the fucking everything is just so. These journalists these days are so horrible. Nothing. They just can't say anything like decisively, and everything is 5 million words. And the thing is that okay, so
I've got a
whatever
short
happened, new new elections had to be done. I don't know if the parliament was exactly dissolved. I can't figure it out from what I'm reading.
Okay,
Because
I'm reading Dissolution of Parliament Canada. It's only 2 paragraphs, so I'll read it, hoping you might be able to understand too. So it says, the House of Commons, but not the Senate, can be dissolved at any time by the King of Canada or by Governor General on the advice of the Prime Minister. If the government is refused confidence or supply, the Prime Minister must either resign and permit another member of the House of Commons to form a government, or else advise the Governor General to dissolve Parliament. Also, the House of Commons automatically dissolves after 5 years, although, as of 2021, no House of Commons has yet survived that long. I'm sorry, I don't really understand. I don't really get it.
well, I'm trying to figure out if it ever really happened or not. A girl from Canada told me that it happened under the Harper government. He at least asked for it. I don't know if it actually happened, but then they had to have new elections over it. So whether or not the governor general actually dissolved it or not, they still needed new elections. So I guess that's all that really matters, right? And
But what was it about? That is the thing. Because if you think about the English Civil War, it is about the king not even calling Parliament to exact taxes for his ship money. Sorry, I'm a bit vague. I didn't really learn it at school. But basically, the English Revolution was there was something called the Long Parliament, the Rump Parliament, and it was about the king taxing his barons, who were basically the military class, and they weren't going to stand for it. So it was it was really the barons protecting their interests and saying, look, you can't just come and take our stuff. We're not going to, and because we have the arms and the men to not give in to you. Anyway, I'm a bit vague about the English Civil War, but it was about whether the king had the right to tax his barons without calling Parliament. Okay,
whatever.
let me just read you the first paragraph of ship money. Ship money was a tax of medieval origin, levied intermittently in the Kingdom of England until the middle of the 17th century. Assessed typically on the inhabitants of coastal areas of England, it was one of the several taxes that English monarchs could levy by prerogative without the approval of Parliament. The attempt of King Charles from 1634 onwards to levy ship money during peacetime and extend it to the inland counties of England without parliamentary approval provoked fierce resistance and was one of the grievances of the English property class in the lead up to the English Civil War. There you go. So
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to read two more paragraphs, but maybe there's no need. What were you going to say?
No, just go ahead. I was going to change the subject, so go ahead and read the 2 paragraphs.
Traditional practice on the subject of ship money. The Plantagenet kings of England had exercised the right of requiring the maritime towns and counties to furnish ships in time of war, and this duty was sometimes commuted for a money payment. So, I guess the coastal towns and cities had to, make ships although several statutes of Edward I and Edward III, notably their confirmations of Magna Carta, had made it illegal for the Crown to exact any taxes without the consent of Parliament, the prerogative of levying ship money in time of war had never fallen wholly into abeyance. In 1619, James I aroused no popular opposition by levying £40,000 of ship money on London and £8,550 on the other seaport towns. But anyway, it just established my point that it was about the barons not standing up for it. And I guess, civil wars are really the ruling classes fighting amongst themselves. I think that's the important thing to understand about civil wars.
Yeah.
But in terms of the logical propositions, it's sort of like, I mean, you were saying that you were saying something about religion and beliefs and recently, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, that I kind of divided religion and said the ingredient of a religion is a narrative and a value system and the rules that make up the religion. I think that kind of explains how religions work. It's sort of like, the religion would be, as far as the Jews are concerned, we are the people given the Torah at Mount Sinai, blah blah blah, and the Torah contains our rules, and the values we have would be obedience to God's laws, and God's laws are, I don't know, being against gay people and being for marriage and being humble before God and blah blah blah, the rest of it. And I think that is how religions are formed. And I mean, yes, you can just have a rule system, but obviously, to have the full benefit of it, you want people to literally believe in the moral merit of the whole thing. Like, it's good to believe, it's good to obey, because, it comes from the best source in the world, the creator of the universe, who cares about us and loves us and only wants to protect us, and, that kind of idea.
Well, he didn't do a very good job, and I think he set up a shitty system. And I told you I would much prefer the Mormon Satan, who just wanted everyone to be happy, and that was it, and didn't want all this hoopla and jumping through hoops and having the ability to hate God and curse God and all this other kind of stuff. He just said, let everyone be happy, let everything be nice, let everybody get into heaven, and that's it. And Jesus said,
Okay, so what you've so actually the Mormon Satan is it's an equal opportunity Satan. That's what. So he's saying, let's treat everybody the same. And this reminds me of, I think Aristotle said that the greatest injustice is to treat unequal things equally. And so it's about, I guess it's equivalent. You can say it's the equivalent of, you go to school and the teacher says, don't worry about homework and exams. You're all going to pass. So that would penalize, boys like you, Vincent, boys who, literally, are prepared to work hard and do well, and you're just going to be passed with the rest of the, donkeys and dunces. So how do you feel about that?
Well, I was gone for a second. I didn't hear what you said. The last thing I heard you say was Satan is equal opportunity, but he's more than equal opportunities, equal outcomes. He just didn't want the human race to go through all this. He just didn't see any point to it. And, I always think about my birds, like, you know, what if one of them didn't want to live in a fucking cage and killed itself? Like, am I gonna, like, you know, what if that's, I wouldn't be angry about that. Like, she didn't want to live in a fucking cage. You know what I mean? And I forced her into a cage. I'm her god. And, you know, she's just, she's just, uh, she's just, you know, I wouldn't do that. I don't want to do that. And I don't want to worship a God who would do that.
Well, the thing is, I mean, I think instinctively, you know, it's like, well, we know the difference between, you know, good and bad and right and wrong, and, you know,
Well, not
and
exactly. Not exactly. No, we don't exactly, you know the difference between right and wrong because there's so many interpretations of that. And, you
yeah, and God
know,
is saying my interpretation is correct. So, you know, but if you think you have better ideas, you know, go ahead and see how
well, but
things
I know
turn out when you
everyone says that everyone says their God has the right interpretation. Everyone says that their God has the right interpretation. So,
well, I mean,
and well, and the Jews would say that the Muslim interpretation is wrong because it allows idolatry.
look, there's only one Abrahamic God, and I know
That does
that would
not allow
really
idolatry, and he doesn't allow idolatry. So Islam is
okay,
straight
okay.
out.
Yes, I mean he does say in the Quran, don't you know, don't do it. You're wasting your
Yeah, but
time
he
and energy.
permits it. Why would God kill people for idolatry and then the Noahide laws come along and then all of a sudden he's just like, well, it's okay now?
No, 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 no. First, it was just the Jews. It's like, no idolatry. Come on, Jews. You lot, you can't. It's going to be death for you guys.
Well, but
Okay?
then the Noahide laws came and it was death for the Gentiles.
Well, it doesn't really say that because, you know, we can't get around the fact that the Noahide laws are in the Babylonian Talmud, and the Babylonian Talmud is not regarded as the directly revealed word of God, but just
Okay,
the
but
word of
okay,
mortal infallible rabbis.
okay, yes. Well,
So it's lower in status.
They were instructed to do that. They were instructed to form some kind of system to get the Gentiles in line, and they did it. And they did it as God's chosen people. And then, you know, Muhammad said, you know, not good enough, yeah, because I need to allow idolatry, and that's about
No,
it.
he didn't. Muhammad said nothing of the sort.
Yes, he did. He said you have to. He said you have to allow freedom of religion.
Okay, so okay, chapter 2, verse 200. Yes, so I'm glad you mentioned that. So basically, there is this element of free will that the Quran certainly acknowledges. It's saying, well, you know, there's some people who will be guided and there will be others who won't, and they'll be going to hell. But, you know, God is not going to intervene. He's not going to force you to believe. And if you want to believe, you know, it's like use your reason. And actually, there's a lot of, you know, exhortations, quite a few exhortations in the Quran saying use your reason. And this brings me to the point of, you know, if you're a believing Jew, if you really thought, oh, God did reveal the Torah, I wonder about the Quran, but maybe God did reveal the Quran because he
Well,
wouldn't be
yeah,
so.
this whole thing that he chose the Jews and then gave up on them is just, you know. And then you
He
can't
really give
trust
up
him.
on it. Okay,
Well, you can't trust him. Who's to stop him from being good enough? So I'm sending a third revelation.
Because of all the
Okay,
things
well,
in
he
Islam,
could change his mind again. He
it's a
changed his
final.
mind. He changed his mind once, so he can change it again. So, you know, I don't see any problem with somebody saying that, you know, Islam, you didn't do quite well, so I've sent a third revelation, which is the Book of Mormon or this book or that book, or, you know, a new book that hasn't been written yet, or what the Ahmadis say that, you know, this, you know, I was so angry at what's his name. He goes, I said, where in the Quran does it say there would be a second prophet? And there's some scripture in the Quran that says, oh, take association with the prophets And so he's saying, well, it says take association with the prophets, which means that there are modern day prophets. And then I said, well, it says prophets and you only have one, so that means there's even more coming. And he's like, oh no, the Quran is a companion to humanity, so the S at the end is the Quran plus our prophet. I mean, you could just, it's like they came up with nonsense. Okay, so God, sent a third prophet, Muhammad wasn't the last prophet, you know what I mean? And so anyone could just make up and say, oh, well, God, gave up on the Muslims and sent Mary Baker Eddy or this person or that person.
Well, no. Okay. I mean, it does. I mean, as far as we know, say, the Quran is the final.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, he gave up on the Jews, so he can give up on the Muslims.
Okay. So articles of faith for the Ahmadis. I mean, basically, the saying that their prophet is an incarnation of Christ. So I think they were very clever about it, saying, well, he's just an incarnation of Jesus. We're not claiming that there are prophets after Muhammad, and everyone knows that Christ came before Muhammad. And that is how I think they reconcile, their heretical beliefs with the Quran, and I think the Muslims couldn't argue against this, and that's why they wanted to gun them down, because they said,
yeah, so you could come up with anything and you can say that Muhammad wasn't the final prophet, and you could just,
but it doesn't matter. None of this matters. It's like, whatever twisted way you're gonna, it's like the Quran is the best available guide to humanity, because even the most rabid Islamophobes won't be able to find anything better unless they're going to be scrabbling around for Mein Kampf or the Communist Manifesto, and then nobody will agree. So I think,
well, nobody agrees on the Quran either, except for Muslims, and they're still a minority. There's still less of them than there are Christians.
Well, the point about the Christians is that they don't really believe, and that's why you can't. They can't defend their principles. I mean, the only purpose of Christianity now is for people to show that, oh, I'm middle class, and that's it. I live in a nice cathedral town, a nice cathedral city where I go bell ringing and sing in the choir and blah, 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 and I'm so middle class, and that's it. And it's the same for Americans. It's just a class distinction now. They don't believe it, and that's why, when you talk to them, they're really demented. They don't, okay, I listened to Jacob Varturecci's streams, and he so cleverly rounded out all the Christians, because the two mean to even pay for their own StreamYard, and Jacob offers them, you can use my StreamYard, you can be part of my group, an associate account or whatever, and so they use it, and of course they can't criticize him, or not openly. And it's just so pathetic and low down. If I'm a Christian, I'd throw it in his face and say, no way. I'm not going to take your charity. I can pay for my own bloody StreamYard. But they're just so pathetic. And Jacob sort of, kind of linked to Paul van der Clay, and Paul van der Clay wants to make it big. He wants to be another Jordan Peterson, and these lost boys of Christianity love him because he's tall and avuncular, and the father figure they never had, and he speaks to them kindly, and he's got so much patience for these neurotic men. And he's great at talking nonsense for hours on end. And they love it. And Jacob kind of, occasionally kowtows to him and occasionally criticizes him. So that's his game.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all, and Jacob is enormously neurotic. He's someone in the social services now, in mental health, and he's actually admitted that he's on psychotropic drugs, and he's working in, I don't know, the California social services or whatnot. And if you look at his streams, a sort of, there's a sort of crazy Chinese person, not me, because I'm not allowed on there, who's just there to, display himself. And he's decided to go for Coptic Christianity, and he was, wow, I know, I know, what was I saying? I love Coptic Christianity because.
Hello?
Okay, sorry. I'm just wait. Just okay. I better check on the door. Hold on.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry about that interruption. What was I talking about? Oh, yes, Coptic Christianity. So basically, this Chinese guy, had, I think his father was Catholic and his mother was, I know, not Christian, but anyway, he wants to find this Christian identity, and he decided to become a Coptic Christian, and he said, the mumbo jumbo is great. I don't even understand the rituals because it's not even in my own language, but it's so wonderful, and it provokes such, feelings of mysticism and transcendence and crap in me. So it's obviously the mumbo jumbo that he loves. And
yeah, it's like
all fucked in the head. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say, really. And then, it's like if you listen to their streams, they can't even talk about what's on their mind. I'm sure they really want to talk about Trump, but they just talk about football practice and, shit like that, because they're too scared. But they're just too, they're too mean to buy their own StreamYard or do it on their own. And they think, oh, if we go under the umbrella of Jacob, we won't get accused of being anti-Semites. He gives us some protection. Okay, I don't know. I can't really read minds, but why would men do this? It's pathetic. And then they never talk about politics, so they just spurg out on, oh, I'm in therapy for this. I'm in, my son's in therapy, and I'm, mentally ill, or it's just so cringe, the whole thing. And these are supposed to be the educated middle classes of America.
I'm reading this sermon out in this is very interesting. Okay, the Sermon on the Mount, I found a good breakdown of it where they highlight it. And yeah, you're right, it's not really. I mean, it's kind of forgiveness, no retaliation, anger, lust, don't get divorced, oaths, love your enemies, give to the needy, the Lord's Prayer, fasting, lay up treasures in heaven, do not be anxious, judging others, ask and it will be given, the golden rule, a tree and its fruit, I never knew you, build your house on a rock, the authority of Jesus. I mean, it's kind of like nice advice, you know what I mean? And, I guess
It's
some of it is.
meaningless. It's platitudinous. I think the word you're looking for is platitudinous. You just read it. I mean, I'm so outraged when I read it because it was mostly oh, the meek will inherit the earth. It's like, oh yes, really, all the broken promises, or the kind of fond wishes of what people would with like, oh, everything will be okay in the end. Don't worry, be happy. It's just mindless. It's just pathetic. But anyway, I mean that's a distillation of Christian wisdom, and this is what Jay loves. So let it be. I mean, but actually, the Torah is superior, the Quran is superior. The no good stories in the New Testament because it's just rubbish.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not a working constitution. You know what I
No,
mean?
and
You
that's
know,
why
and
the
that's
Catholic Church didn't want the Catholics to read the Bible in case they realized what rubbish it was.
yeah, and it was pieced together, and the thing is that it came from 3 different continents, and it came from like 50 different versions of each book, and and Stephen J. James was like, well, at least we finally put it together, but it's like, need a little bit, it wasn't put together very well, was it? And it doesn't really do anything. I'm surprised that fucking Christians could make a constitution, you know what I mean, with what they had. I'm surprised that they
managed to make anything out of that. But actually, the Jews say that there was an English, I forget his name, John something or other. But anyway, he learned Hebrew because he thought there's nothing in the New Testament.
John Selden.
That's the one. That's right. John Selwyn.
He was
So
into
he
the
learned
he was
Hebrew in
into.
order
Did
to
you
be
know?
able to read the Old Testament.
Do you know he was into the Noahide laws? Did you know that, John Selden? I have that on my stopnoahidelaw.blogspot. Yes, he was. Look up John Selden on my stopnoahidelaw.blogspot.com, and you will see that he promoted the Noahide laws.
Mm-hmm.
He did. He was a Noahide. Well, at least he promoted them or was interested in them, at least.
Yes, so he sort of realized where all the laws came from, from the book of Deuteronomy and Leviticus and all that. And of course, he must have been driven mad. It's like, oh my God, no idolatry. But what is Christianity? And what do Jews actually think of Christianity? They think it's idolatry. That's why they executed Jesus when he said, his father was God. And, well, I don't know. I think it must have driven quite a few people crazy enough to keep asking the question, like, but how is Jesus God? And isn't it idolatry? And they were all burnt at the stake because they just couldn't get it round their heads, and they wouldn't shut up about it because I guess it became, a compulsion. Because I'm sure, people of the time, even people of the time, were saying, look, you better shut up or you'll get burnt at the stake. And they just couldn't shut up. It's a really evil religion. And I just feel sorry for Americans who want, more of it because they don't understand how it used to be in Europe when, they couldn't even question it at all. Like, I mean, what happened to the Anabaptists was like, well, could you tell us about this Trinity thing? Because, we obviously didn't understand when we were infants. And in Russia, they don't have this extra step of confirmation. They don't have, so it's like,
Yeah.
you're already Christian, don't ask any more questions or you'll get burnt at the stake. Just shut up. And
Yeah.
and I guess in America, the Southern Baptist was about this. It's like, well, we want to know what it's all about, and it's only when we understand that we truly become Christian, and then we'll have an adult baptism, and so we, it's their equivalent of the confirmation ceremony. But that's also wrong because, it's still idolatry. But okay, just this question of, you know, the Torah and the Quran, which is better? And I'm saying, look, if you did believe in God, irrespective of you being Jewish or Gentile, you know, if you're going to do it, you think, well, what rights do I have under the Quran, and what rights do I have under the Torah? And you have more rights under the under the Quran, and that's why I'm saying even believing Jews ought to choose the Quran. And it's not like, oh, we have to, you know, just not be
Well,
Jews anymore.
okay, look, this thing is that you think everyone wants it so easy, and not every single person on the earth believes in like a liberal religion like that. Like the thing, okay, if you're Catholic, you have a lot more leeway than if you're a Jehovah's Witness, and you can get away with a lot more, and you're not going to get disfellowshipped, and nobody's going to look down on you if you get divorced or do drugs or any of these kinds of things, and there's a lot more freedom. But the thing is that, you know, not everyone chooses that path, and I would say that people who don't choose that path to a degree have more power.
Well, in the sense of what, secular Jews having more power than religious Jews. Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
no, I think religious Jews have more power than secular Jews, because secular Jews don't really, I mean, liberalism is losing its power, and they did have power for a short while, but so did the Catholic Church have power for a short while. And, you know, I think in the end, people who have strong principles get further, even if they're smaller in number, than, you know, people who don't have those strong values and principles. And any Orthodox Jew is just going to tell you to get lost. They're going to say, I don't break any of my rules, so I don't need your Islam. I don't need training wheels. I don't need, you know, I need the real McCoy. I don't want to be part of some kind of dilapidated second rate, you know, not real McCoy, not full cigar.
Okay, then I think you're not understanding that
No, you just think
secular
everyone
Quranism
wants
is
the
a legal
easy way.
system. Nobody
You want
is
every,
required to change their beliefs, including
yeah.
Jews. But I'm
Well,
just
the
saying,
thing is
you know,
that they don't.
you can keep your Christian, Jewish, Buddhist, Hindu identity, but you just have to obey the laws of secular Quranism. And I'm not asking anybody to change their beliefs.
No, but well, they would say, well, we have a stricter law than that, and we want to keep people.
Yeah. You just observe a higher standard, but the minimum standard is the legislation of secular Quranism.
Yeah, which
But
allows
and then I'm going to
idolatry.
say
Which,
it's going to help
look,
you
Claire,
be
obviously you
better
don't think
Jews.
idolatry is that bad of a sin. You don't think it's worse than murder. So some people think it's worse than murder, and
Okay, so don't do it.
Well, they think it's murder, so they don't want anyone else doing it either.
They have to put up with it now in Israel. They've got churches in Israel, in Jerusalem.
Okay, well, they want to change that. Maybe some people want to change that, and maybe
Okay.
Jews
I
will.
mean,
Maybe
there
Jews
is
will
no
see that.
agreement.
Maybe Jews will see that, you know, allowing churches in Israel is a big problem.
Yeah, and I know what they do now. They spit on these Christians when they have their processions or whenever they see a Christian. You know that. I mean, I think that's the only way they can do to show their disapproval of their idolatry. That's what they do now to Christians.
Yeah, well, don't you think some people would? Don't you think some people would like to get that out of Israel altogether rather than tolerating it?
Yeah, but they have no power because, you know, Israel remains a secular state.
Yes, well, it's growing in power. I mean, the fact that they're all protesting over there because they want judicial reform, and the fact is that, you know, the people who are having all the kids are the Orthodox, and, you know, the liberals are either gay or have 2 children. You know, so the only reason Israel has a 3-person birth rate, 3-child per couple birth rate, is because of the Orthodox. It's not because of liberal Jews.
Yes, I understand, but the point is that if you were to ask any rabbi, you know, about, oh, do you know, do you think secular or religious Jews have more power? And they'll say it's those bloody secular Jews because Israel is a
Well,
secular
then they're
state.
dumb. The fact that that you're able to get Congress to say that the Noahide laws are the foundation of America, even if it's not fully enacted in law. Liberal secular Jews could never get any of their rules. Couldn't get the rules of whatever.
What? Okay, you're talking about education and sharing day, and this,
Which
I
is a
think,
big,
rewards.
which is very significant because Muslims couldn't do that. Obviously, rabbinical Jewry is more powerful than Muslims.
No, it's all about snobbery. It's like Muslims
Well,
are,
they're more
people would
powerful.
bomb the crap
Muslims
out
could
of.
never do that. Muslims never could ever in a million years do that. And it just shows that because Orthodox Jews have more convictions than Muslims do.
No. I mean, I think it's because it's those rabbis. Okay, it was because of the personality and charisma of Rabbi Schneerson. That's what got the whole thing through. And
Okay,
anyway,
well, why don't Muslims
even
have
the
anyone whose
proclamation has
personality is
been.
like that? How is it that 20 million Jews are able to produce all of these personalities that can do all these things, and nearly 2 billion Muslims can't produce a single personality that can do the same thing?
Yeah, because they're stupid and they learn their religion in a retarded way.
Yeah, well, then, as I said, Jehovah's Witnesses would just say God's Holy Spirit is not over them.
Yeah,
They don't
and
have.
that's because they don't follow their own rules. That's what I'm saying, because they don't know it. But
Well,
then,
why
they
aren't they
just
following their
rise
own
up
rules?
with
Well,
Jews.
Jehovah's Witnesses are just given the no excuse and say, obviously, God is not working through you, so goodbye.
Yeah, and God wouldn't work through you if you don't obey his laws.
Okay, well then send a third revelation, make another religion. They're not
No, there is
listening.
no need. There's no need to send a third revelation. All
Well,
that
it's
needs to
obviously
be
not
done.
inspiring enough. They're obviously
No,
the
because
Quran is
the
not.
Muslims are retarded and they
Well,
can't
what
agree and they're scared and
have you ever
people hate them.
thought that their religion makes them retarded, and that the Jewish religion makes Jews not retarded, and that the Jehovah's Witness religion makes Jehovah's Witnesses very, very forthright and what's the word? They don't give in. They're not, pushovers like Muslims are.
Well, people still don't hear much about Jehovah's Witnesses now. You're not really in the news. You're not the hot topic.
Well, they don't seek. They don't seek
decade.
to. Yeah, well, they don't seek to be in the news. Number one, but they operate better than Muslims do. I mean, they have a more unified. At least they're not at gay parades like Muslims are. There's no purple Jehovah's Witnesses like there's purple jihad. Have you seen that purple jihad?
No, what's that?
Yeah, purple jihad is gay Muslims fighting for homosexual rights.
Well, okay. The problem with Jews and Muslims is that they don't have a pope. So basically, all these different Jews and Muslims just say anything in the name of their religion. They use their religion as a brand, and people, ignorant people are easily fooled. I mean, there was something called Gnosticism before the Council of Nicaea, and obviously wasn't good enough because Gnosticism was basically snake oil salesmen, using the brand of Jesus to sell their wares. That's what it was, and in America there is something called American Gnosticism with Mormonism and Southern Baptist Convention, and all the other offshoots of Christianity. They are examples of American Gnosticism, like Seventh-day Adventist and Jehovah's Witnesses. America is a land of cults because of the First Amendment, but it can't carry on any longer because you people are in trouble. I mean, people are talking about civil war if you listen to the political commentaries. So, I mean, I'm just trying to avert such a situation. Because, I mean, I'm surprised it hasn't happened before, because, you know, it's like, I guess the reason why, you know, YouTube and, you know, the other social media platforms were so keen on, you know, nuking anybody who said the elections were stolen was because, well, you know, it could actually provoke a revolution if people were, you know, guided by the logic of their beliefs. It's like, well, if they've already stolen one election, what's there to stop them from stealing another? Let's overthrow them now. That's what I guess the CIA, you know, concluded. But then it wasn't necessary because people were just so morally apathetic that they're thinking, oh, well, we're just going to fight the election in November still, and we'll just trundle on while, you know, the apparatus of state is being, you know, ground into action to crush Trump and his supporters. So,
I'm just eating, but I'm listening.
okay. So okay, I'm saying that it's obvious which book you would prefer, even if you're a Jew. It's like, okay, if secular Quranism or even Sharia doesn't require Jews to change their religion, and if Sharia or secular Quranism would help me be a better Jew and be a better married parent, a better spouse, then I should support it. I mean, that would be the logic of this belief. But clearly, you know, people are just all over the place with their beliefs. They, you know, they seem to want to believe in yes and no at the same time. And therefore, they have no firm belief in anything. And that's why you can really kick them around, because they don't know what they want. They don't know what they believe from one moment to the next. And one of the things that Jay used to do, until I called him out on it, is the way he said, yeah, but no. I mean, I don't know if Americans have, you know, the equivalent of saying this. Have you ever heard it?
Yeah.
Well, it's a terrible saying, you know, terrible way of saying nothing. What does it mean? Yes, but no. But I think it is a reflection of the, you know, moral confusion of our times. So I think the confusion is what should we do? We feel we ought to do something. We feel we ought to heed our moral imperative, but we also feel that we're not going to succeed. And if we don't succeed, we will only suffer loss of status and cancellation of our career, whatever. And so we better not. But the point is that if the longer people don't fight back, the enemy will be emboldened, and that's why you get crazier and crazier policies of state. So, you know, if you don't fight back, they'll think, oh, well, we'll just carry on advancing. And I think this is obviously a failure of moral leadership. And you know, it's obviously true that the Muslims haven't got a leader, and you know, neither do Jews. You know, that there will be an argument about, you know, who are the Jews to listen to. And obviously, secular Gentiles would want to go to secular Jews, and religious Gentiles would go for religious Jews. But I mean, they haven't even worked that out yet. So
well, these people really ruined the world with all of their nonsense and making all this up, and just really threw everything into a tizzy. And
it's what's called double.
I think they're going to pay. They're going to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. They're going to pay for it. The Jews have already paid twice over. They paid with Christianity, who attacked them. and then they paid with Islam, who attacks them. And you know, had they never invented the mother religion, they wouldn't have the daughter religions. And that have been, you know, and as much now they say, oh, well, Christianity and Islam was sent by God to spread the Noahide laws and prepare the way. And you know, but I don't think that quite fixes everything, because how many Jews had to die for that? I mean, how many Jews had to die for that?
Yeah. And the thing is, you know, my proposition to Jews is that you would actually be fulfilling your purpose if you all converted to Islam. Not that you are going to, but if you were to do
Well,
that, you would.
They would not have gotten rid of idolatry, and I don't think that
it doesn't matter, because idolatry is a sin like all the others, like lust and sloth and.
No, it's like murder. It's like murder or theft or something like that.
It's a mortal sin. I get it. But I'm saying you're not going to be able to eradicate it. I mean, all you can do with these rules is to say these things are bad, avoid them, don't do them. But people will. You know, it's just that, you know, the fact that.
Okay, well, you've changed the definition. You've changed the ranking of idolatry in the list of sins. You've made it not so bad. Hello?
No. Okay, I'm just saying they're all bad. So the other day, Rabbi Misraki was saying, hold on. He basically said stoning was the worst. Was the worst punishment, followed by burning. Apparently, the penalty of burning is not, you know, being burnt at the stake. I mean, this is just a Christian invention, but it means somebody just stuck, you know, hot lead down your throat, and then you just die of that. I mean, I think that's the worst, but he's saying stoning is the worst. Being, you know, having hot lead stuffed down your throat is the second, and then there's strangulation. I think strangulation follows, and then followed by beheading, because I think beheading is the most compassionate because it's supposed to be quickly over. But anyway, that was what.
Yeah, correct. Well, yes, they say it's supposed to be the kindest way of killing someone. Well, at least according to them, you know, at least according to them. But they lie and say, oh, it doesn't disfigure you, which it obviously does disfigure you.
Yeah, but I mean, the idea is that, you know, it is accomplished in one stroke. So, you know, it's quickly over. And I know, I mean, the story of Anne Boleyn, you know, she was about to be executed, and she asked for, you know, a French swordsman who were apparently more accurate, because apparently the English axeman, you know, would always be drunk. He's got this enormous axe, but he'd miss. And he'd have to take, you know, make more than one attempt to, you know, chop off the head of the victim. And she said, you know, I don't even know if she got what she wanted. Let me just look. If she did get her French swordsman. So I know that I think you may still be able to find it on YouTube, and there was this executioner in Saudi, and you know, it started with, you know, he was in his home, and he was a grandfather, and you saw all the, you know, all his grandchildren crawling all over him on his sofa, and then he started talking about, you know, the difficulties of the job, and he said, oh, I've had this job for, you know, generations. My father was one too, but he was black. He wasn't, you know, so maybe they you know, gave the crap jobs to blacks, and then he was, you know, he was asked questions like, oh, well, you know, what's the thing that you wish, you know, people would do to make your job easier? And he said, you know, he said, keep still. I wish they'd keep still. that kind of thing. But anyway, he's supposed to accomplish it in one stroke, and we saw his sword. And I've also seen a beheading sword in Copenhagen, actually. But anyway, a
Yeah, well,
final. Yeah. Oh, she did get an expert swordsman from Saint-Omer in France to perform the execution. She was going to be she was going to be burned at the stake, but he commuted her sentence. Henry commuted his wife's sentence to beheading, and rather than have the Queen beheaded with a common axe, he brought an expert swordsman from Saint-Omer in France to perform the execution. So there, it's meant to be compassionate. So
yeah,
I
so
guess
they don't actually, they don't know if, well, and hemlock was available. I mean, what's his name? Socrates died from hemlock. It's not like they didn't have hemlock in Great Britain. And the thing is that when you behead someone, it's believed you can contain your consciousness for up to a minute. So you can be quite aware that your head is off your body.
Mm-hmm.
And you could be quite, and I'm sure it's quite painful. At least I don't know how much of the nerves you can still feel or whatever that are in your neck, but I mean, you can be aware that your head is just severed from your body for up to a minute, and or at least they believe so.
Yeah, because apparently the lips of the head would still move.
Yes.
After the beheading. What are the symptoms of hemlock poisoning?
Well, it's supposedly quite peaceful. It's supposedly, well, they've always had access to poisons that kill you without really hurting you. Yeah, Socrates was meant to drink hemlock, right? He was forced to drink hemlock.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if Socrates was forced to drink hemlock, I'm sure they would have had it in England somewhere. I'm sure the king always had potion masters and stuff like that, drug masters, and
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah, I've got. I'm just looking up the signs of all these settings, cookies and things. Symptoms of hemlock poisoning. In dogs and horses. Let's do humans. There is no antidote for hemlock poisoning. Symptoms can range from vomiting to seizures to respiratory failure.
Yeah, well, if
it doesn't sound that nice.
Well, no, if you're given it in high doses, it's supposed to not really, you're supposed to just kind of fall asleep. You know what I mean? And there are poisons that kill you without really, that just drug you and just, cause respiratory failure because you took so much of it, but you're unconscious by the time you go into respiratory failure.
Okay, it says sweating, vomiting, dilated pupils, excess salivation, dry mouth, rapid heartbeat, high blood pressure, restlessness or confusion, muscle weakness and muscle twitches, tremors, and
Well, then
seizures.
now we have something different. I don't know what they had back then, but now we can definitely do it through lethal injection. And you can, you can put a person to sleep before you actually do it. And you know what I mean?
Yes, a lethal injection.
Yes, there's lethal injection, and now they have CO2 chamber. They have CO2 chambers now that you can use to execute people. It's just horrible. I'm quite concerned because my therapist now has access to all my blogs because he wanted to see the letter that I wrote to Martha Welch or to Columbia University, and the link was attached to it to my blog, and now he's reading them all. I'm like, oh God.
Oh, well, you're kind of spreading your message, aren't you?
Yes, well, I don't want him to, like, dump me because, whatever.
Well, it
But
might be good. It might be good for you not to have any psychotropic drugs to keep you on an even keel. I think you should at least aim for that. I think you're capable of it. And I
well,
think, okay,
I'm going to get if this ketamine. So I have my second ketamine treatment tonight, and it's really working. So I might not need antidepressants anymore, to be honest with you.
oh, good. Well, I hope that. But okay, the thing for you to realize is that doubt is actually more painful than loss. I mean, in terms of that the anxiety it causes, because you think, oh yes, I've lost everything. My home is gone. Everything is gone. Everyone I love, gone. And it's like, okay, but you get over it. It's when you're not sure. Like maybe, somebody just went away, you're not sure if they're dead or alive, and you get conflicting reports, and and then you can't settle your affairs. So I think doubt is more causes worse mental illness than just somebody being told, right, well, sorry, but you're going to be, dead in 3 months or whatever. But at least you can think, oh, okay, I better, make my will or whatever it is that you want to do in the 3 months available to you. So I think this is something to consider. And the other thing I want you to understand is that people who don't really believe that they are neurotic. So I think the best move is really to at least understand the whole narrative of the Abrahamic God. And then you can think, oh yeah, he might exist, he might not exist, but you can work out whether something is correct or not by looking at, okay, something has happened, and you can attribute the cause to divine punishment, if that's what that could be a reason, or it could be for sociological, political, I don't know, military, economic reasons, whatever. But if all the reasons point to, well, you better not do this thing, then obviously it becomes clear that you shouldn't be doing this thing, so don't do it. And this is how you work out what to do for the best. So what
Well,
I've
yeah, but it
noticed
does
about,
go well you always say, well, mine's just the legal system, but people are going to think beyond that, and they're going to think about God, and then it's going to be like, which Muslim sect do I choose? Because there's so many, and they all have different beliefs, and blah, 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 blah. And, like, of course you're not going to be sure. You know what I mean? And,
no.
like,
Okay. What I have in mind is that every country will have their own system, and there will be only one. Because there will be only
but
one
that's not
government.
belief. It's not a belief system. People are going to look for a belief system.
Okay, so the belief system is the most general. It's like there's a the Abraham. There's only one Abrahamic God, and he did reveal the Torah and then the Quran, and then it's like, yeah, but
Yeah, well, they're not all going to agree. There's going to be all different sects fighting over
no.
this.
Okay, we don't have to even talk about sects. We're just talking about
No, but that's an important thing. You always ignore that, and people are religious, and they want to know about God and which God and what's his
okay,
path.
but all they need to care about is what they might be interested in is how all these principles will turn out in legislation, because I don't really care what they believe, but I'm saying it might help some people to understand the belief system without accepting it. So this idea, oh yes, suffering is punishment for sin, and so it has the purpose of people correcting themselves. It's like, oh, is it hurting? Well, maybe you could be punished for your sin. If you want to stop hurting, well, maybe you better stop doing the things that God told you not to do. What are they? Have a look at the no-hide laws. It's that kind of reasoning. It doesn't have to, which sect of, Islam or Christianity or whatever should I be. It's just that. It's for I mean that is for individual morality. It's for private morality. So if you work out this simple system, it's like being punished is suffering is punishment for sin, and if you accept that, then you'll try to avoid doing things.
Yes, but then you have to bring in it doesn't make sense. Yes, but then it doesn't make sense unless you believe in reincarnation, because people are good and they suffer, people are bad and they don't suffer, and then it's just none of this stuff makes sense, and then you have to make up more and more mysticism in order to explain everything.
It's already
reincarnation is mysticism. Reincarnation is mysticism.
Actually, a lot of people find reincarnation easier to believe than God.
It's mysticism. You cannot prove that. It's beyond this world.
Well, I think Jen was trying to prove it with a panpsychism.
Well, she can't. Okay, nobody can.
Okay, but I mean, I think there is a move to sort of prove that panpsychism is true. It's like, oh, even
Claire, are you falling for her cult now? Because
no,
look, you just want to believe in reincarnation so that you can ease away the fact that not everyone who sins suffers and not everyone who doesn't sin doesn't suffer. So you need reincarnation in order for your system to work.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's the only reason you're believing in reincarnation.
I'm not necessarily believing in it. I'm just saying, it's an old idea. We have the option of believing in it, and
yeah, well, because your system doesn't make sense without it. Your system, there's rich, happy scumbags, and there's poor, ill Muslims that follow the Quran to a T, and none of it makes sense unless you believe in reincarnation.
Well, actually, or heaven and hell. Because the idea is that God administers both reincarnation and hell and heaven. He runs heaven, he runs
Well, what
hell.
is it? Do you go to hell or heaven? How many times do you board? Like the Bible says that it's only appointed one time for man to live. And I know most Muslims don't believe in reincarnation. I know there's a few. There is a sect of Islam that believes in reincarnation, but most Muslims don't believe in reincarnation.
Okay, but that's just by the way, it's peripheral to the actual issue of changing the rules. So if you put it to people that they might be happier if they believed, then they'll be more inclined to believe, and also as things get worse and they suffer more, they'll be more inclined to believe. And also the thing is, if you accuse any Jew, Christian, or Muslim of being cursed by God, they can't really say, oh, we don't know what you're talking about. We've always followed the laws of God perfectly. They're not going to say that. They'll just look guilty and shifty and want to leave the room. So it's like we're onto a winner here. We're onto a winner. They have no answer. They can only retreat and we can only advance if people will just make those bloody arguments.
Well, the thing is that people are more than just. Most people, unfortunately, need more than just a dry set of secular rules to follow. Most people are dumb and need much more than that. And then they want to know why. They want to know why they should follow those rules. If you're saying they don't even necessarily come from God, they're just good rules. And some people might not agree with them and not want to accept them because they're saying, well, who are you to say what rules are the best, and why should I listen to the Quran if it's not necessarily from God and I don't even like it anyway? You know what
Because
I mean?
it's still the best available guide to humanity, and the Muslims have been around.
Well,
for
according to
400
who?
years.
If it's not from God, who cares? Like, if it's not from God, who said it?
Available.
Who said that? Who? According to who? According to you.
And also, the people who disagree can't find a better guide to humanity.
Well,
so they lost the argument.
Well, a better guide to humanity that nobody wants to follow.
Okay, we obviously this proposal can only be made to the ruling classes, and it's possible that in the entire global empire of America, we won't be able to find enough people who are influential and honorable to make this point. It's possible. I don't assume success, but I mean, can it be that in the entire Anglosphere that there aren't as many as 10 good men? But for the existence of 10 good men, Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed. So I think we can begin our quest for 10 good men, and just assume the worst if they can't be found. These are compelling narratives, Vincent, because people already understand them. Even atheists, it's like they know the concept. They just don't, wish to accept, the reality of God's existence, but they know the story. And that's enough. That's enough, because enough people will want to believe when things get worse, and they will. They will get worse. And to complete their humiliation, it's just the two of us making these points. And you've got the energy to do it, and you've got the conviction once you get it into your head to make these arguments, which are easy to make.
I'm not into whipping unwed parents. I'm not going to whip unwed parents, Claire.
Well, you won't have to do it personally.
I know. Well, I'm not going to promote whipping unwed parents. I'm not going to. You say these wife beatings are going to be slaps on the hand, but that's still like humiliating. Why can't a wife slap her husband on the hand for whatever? I'm not going to be involved in all that. And then it's like, I don't want Muslim culture. I don't
Muslim culture. You get authentic American culture as it changes into, which will be the product of these laws.
It would be the Islamification of America.
Yeah, but it will be a different culture to, what you probably think of as culture in Saudi or, Turkey or whatever. It will be different. I mean, they're all different countries, so they'll have a slightly different culture. I don't know why you think you're all going to be,
Well, it's enough. The Quran is enough of a culture.
No, it's just a system. I mean, culture is a product of law and morality and the moral system that your laws are based on. I mean, that's what culture is. Culture is what people do, and people will do what the law allows them to do, and the law will, and I mean, the law will always be based on the moral system of the country, either official or unofficial.
Well, I just don't want that coming in. And I mean,
it's not going to affect you because you're not going to be an unmarried parent. Come on. I don't know.
Well, my marriage would be dissolved.
But you can have a different kind of,
Okay, well, I don't want my marriage dissolved. I don't want it dissolved. Okay, like, And most gay men don't want their marriages dissolved, and me to go tell them their
You just
marriages are.
basically renegotiate the terms of the domestic
Yeah, well,
partnership,
it's just that that's not what they want.
which
That's
might
not.
be to your advantage.
Okay, well, try go telling gay men that you're going to dissolve their marriages and create the second tier, domestic partnership that doesn't, only applies to gay people, and see where you get with that. People don't want separate, rules for them. They don't want a separate system for them. They want, marriage. And then with these domestic partnerships, are you allowed to get a divorce, or is it no divorce?
Yes,
Are
of
you allowed to
course.
have a no?
It's for straight people can do it. It's like you can share a home, but maybe you want to buy a home with somebody and you don't have children, and you want to know what the arrangements are about who pays the bills and whatever property disputes that might arise, and you need a contract. I mean, it doesn't have to be just for gay people. It's just for anyone sharing a home. It could be a male and a female, domestic partner who aren't married, who don't want to marry because they don't want children, or whatever. It's flexible.
Okay, well, try. I'm not telling people that. I'm not going to go tell gay men that they need some kind of secondary,
I can't hear you now. It's gone quiet. Ha ha. Can't hear you, Vincent. Still can't hear you.
Hello?
Yes, now I can. You dropped out. Okay, you don't have to do it. Just leave it to me. I'll do it. You can do the nicey bit about, how gay people can show themselves to be.
Hello?
Hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can. I got a phone call, and so it disturbed the friggin' thing. If I get a phone call, it kicks me off. Yeah, I'm just not really willing to do any of that and tell them all this other kind of stuff.
Well, you don't have to. Okay, you leave it to me and I'll do it. And then people will go, oh, how could you, Vincent? Come on our show and we're going to throw rocks at you and you can defend yourself. It'll be fun.
And say, oh yes, I believe in whipping pregnant, unwed mothers and
unwed fathers. So you can't be accused of being sexist. And the great thing for gay people is that they'll never get into trouble over that because they can't marry and they can't have children, and gay sex is
but also they can't
recreational sex.
They can't have gay parades. They can't have clubs that are visible from the outside. They can't. I don't even know if they would be able to do public displays of affection and all these other different kinds of things, and
they can all be put into a red light district.
Okay, well, they don't want red light districts. They don't want red light districts. That makes them feel like like they have that makes them feel like they're marginalized. Like you're not allowed to.
You'll be just as marginalized as straight people who are not married having sex.
Yeah, well, gay men don't want to be marginalized. Nobody wants to be
you're not marginalized if you're in the same level as straight people who are having sex with each other in their hotels.
Yeah, well,
Oh, you can't be expected to say, well, we have the same rights as married parents because they're the ones rearing the next generation and having to do more than you guys. It's only fair.
No, it's not. It's like, there's other ways you can contribute to society besides raising children, and people do it all the time.
I agree. And unmarried people, bachelors and spinsters, have their own contribution because they can do their thing without being distracted by children. You know, artists.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what gay people are for, to be the
Yes.
bachelors. You know, to be the bachelors so that they can, which I'm saying that that's actually not what they should be doing anymore, and that they should do collective breeding and actually put all their energy into breeding the next population, next generation, rather than art and music and all this other kind of nonsense, which, you know, fashion and who gives a bloody fuck about fashion?
Why are you making gay people do the thing that they don't want to do?
Well,
It's just
because
so
I think that
crazy.
if they well, not all of them. I'm not looking, Claire. I will never be a mass movement person like you. I don't want mass movement because the only way to do a mass movement is to water it down and make it icky and make it like for common consumption. I'm not going for the lowest common denominator. Even amongst homosexuals, I'm not going after mass homosexuals that don't want to do anything like this and want nothing except for a lifestyle of drugs and partying. I'm not going for them. And like
Okay,
you just
well,
okay,
if you find somebody who's interested in your idea, then let me know.
You're
trying to make a fish fly. You're making a bird live
well,
underwater.
I think that they
don't
would
know why you're bothering.
they would do it better if they just put their mind to it, and it's just somebody just needs to kind of give them the idea. And gay men are already having children on their own, but I'm saying that that's not fast enough, that's not potent enough. That's not strong enough. You can't just have a few gay men here and there, you know, reproducing. You need it to be done on an industrial scale, industrial breeding.
There you go again. So you can't make up your mind. It's so elitist and esoteric, and then suddenly you want it done on an industrial scale.
Well,
You know,
okay,
I
not on an industrial scale, and that. No, it's not no. Industrial doesn't need to be, you know, you could still have a small industry. You know, industry doesn't need to be everybody. I mean, you're just obsessed with the masses, and I'm not, and you just don't understand that. And I do come from a culture that got somewhere without appealing to the masses, and they don't want to appeal to the masses. They never wanted. They never even tried. Why would you even, if you're trying to do something special, then you wouldn't, you know, it's like, you know, I'm a designer boutique and you're Walmart, Claire. And, you know, just because I'm a designer boutique doesn't mean I'm going to make less money. And I can have just as much influence because maybe the higher echelons of society buy my things and my things become more valuable. And, you know, you're, 400-pound people in flat flip-flops going in sweatpants, and you know, I don't want that in my store. I don't, you know,
Okay, you can be Dolce and Gabbana, but remember, Dolce and Gabbana supported the family until they were shamed for doing that.
well,
They
I'm
even
just
had a
saying,
sort of family
yeah, I know,
series.
but just because you don't have to bring them into it. What I'm saying is that yes, if gay men are breeding in less numbers, but it's Prada, and you have mass production of children, but you know, it's Walmart. It's not, you know, it's yeah, it's Walmart. You're doing Walmart breeding, and I'm doing, you know, Prada, Gucci, you know, whatever. I don't know what the most expensive brands
Okay.
are.
What is a supermarket in America that is known for quality and not cheapness?
Oh, is it called D'Agostino's? Let me look it up. D'Agostino's.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Well,
D'Agostino's. They're in the city. D'Agostino's Deli. Let me look at this again. It's more than a deli. I mean, they call itself a deli, but it's way more than a deli. They're in New York City. They're all over New York.
Whole Foods. That's an American thing.
Okay, well, Whole Foods is a step up from Walmart, but I want to be D'Agostino supermarkets are kind of in New York City area. They're kind of like the or Gristides or whatever, you know, these kind of high, expensive, fine, fancy foreign foods,
Mhm.
you know, which, I mean, I don't want it to be delicate like that. I think that sometimes designer stuff is very delicate and overly ornate, and I don't feel like doing that either. But sometimes when you produce very high quality, it's done in smaller numbers, but that doesn't mean that you don't have a disproportionate amount of power. Jews have more power than Muslims because it's just a higher quality religion.
Well, okay. I'd equate Jews to a golf club and Islam to a political party.
Well, it's
Oh,
more.
did you know that Whole Foods was acquired by Amazon?
No, I didn't know that. Well, yeah, it's just like, an Amazon warehouse, and you can't get everything off Amazon, and, some things you can't get on Amazon, and some things you can only get in special stores, like whatever, Gucci stores, or I don't know what kind of stores that you can only get their products in, but you know what I mean? And if I have to take a while to do it, and it's just everything with you is numbers and amounts and quickness, and you want everything like McDonald's, fast, mass, just like,
I like pot pies.
well, you're just like pump it out, you know what I mean?
I
Like,
like pot pies.
what I'm saying McDonald's is fast and cheap and
Well,
for
people
mass
complain about
consumption.
the price of McDonald's. I heard
What?
Americans saying it's $15 just to have a burger in McDonald's.
Well, I'm saying you're the McDonald's, and I'm not McDonald's, and I'm more like fine dining, and you know, it is more fine dining, and I'm not going to become McDonald's because I'm looking for higher quality than that, and that takes a while. And I am not looking for the masses of gay men because, you know what I mean? It's like, but even if I were looking to do a selective breeding program amongst heterosexuals, I would do it with only a few. You can't do it with everyone because most people are not very high quality. And so you wouldn't be able to do, if you just want mass, like, dumbed down breeding, then just encourage marriage, and everyone just free for all, meet somebody, get them pregnant, and marry them, and then you'll just have what you've always had, and that's not been very good.
Well, the point is that it is at least, well, it's kept human civilization going, and we
In
sort of
what
know what happens when they
condition?
stop doing it. When they
In a
stop
low
doing it.
condition. I mean, the thing is that sometimes houses are so dilapidated, it's better to just collapse them than to renovate them.
Okay, but before
I'm
you
saying,
demolish, there are
your
people
house.
living
I'm
in there, but
saying
you have to
your
think
house.
about where you're going to put them before you demolish their homes.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that I'm going to build new homes before I demolish the old ones. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? You have to build new homes, and that's what I'm doing, with better quality. And then, yes, demolish it. Then get rid of the old homes that are condemned and all this other kind of stuff. And,
Okay. Well,
it's going to take a while, and I'm willing to take a while, and you're all about getting power in your time, and I'm not going to frustrate myself with that. I mean, if if small groups frustrated themselves with wanting immediate power and the masses on their side, then that was kind of, I think Hitler was a little bit disappointed with the German people. He tried a mass movement, and I think in the end he kind of realized that the vast majority of people just weren't up to it. And I think he said something like, well, if the Germans can't fight and win, then they don't deserve it. And I think that he dragged a bunch of dead weights into the party, and they just didn't add up to snuff. And maybe things would have been better for him had he started a counter government organization and, died with maybe 100,000 followers instead of, a dead country.
Well, I suppose he was too impatient. He wanted everything, in his lifetime.
Like
No,
you.
but I'm not starting wars. I'm trying to prevent a world war.
Yeah, well, you're also looking to get.
By calming the Americans down and saying, well, it'll be bad for business, it'll be bad for white people, and people will, hate white people. And, I'm just trying to, point out the obvious pitfalls of continuing the way you're continuing and not really caring about the consequences and not taking the whole thing seriously.
Oh, just I don't know, but I'm not looking for mass movement, and I'd rather do something that's slow and generational rather
Okay.
than you know what I mean. And I would be impressed if Charles Taze Russell was more than 100 years ago, 140 years ago. And, okay, so his work started and he has less than 10 million people in 140 years, but I would be happy if that. And if 140 years I have 10 million births in my ministry, I would be quite happy.
But you
I
won't
would.
be alive.
What? So
You
what?
won't be alive.
Okay, well, if before I die I get one birth, if I get one birth, I will feel as though I at least accomplished something and started something. You know what I mean? And it's just a different, it's like, it's kind of like, so we both graduate from high school and I have to take 8 years. I'm trying to get my PhD and I have to live in poverty and all I have to do is go to school. And you're saying, well, I'm not going to college. I'm getting out of school and I'm getting a job right away, even if it's not the best job. And I'm making money right away and I don't have to worry about school and I don't have to worry about all this. And ha ha ha, look at you going for your PhD, wasting all your time. And, but in the end, the results are going to be better. It's going to take longer.
Won't we?
What?
We'll have to see, won't we?
Well, the thing is that, you have
And
your job as you got your job as a supermarket checkout girl making $15 an hour, and you're saying, look at me, I have my own apartment and all this other kind of stuff, and why are you even bothering with this PhD? And, I'm looking for a PhD. I'm not looking for, a mediocre existence. But it's going to take me some time and energy and effort and disappointment and things like that. It's going to take me all that, and you're skipping all that, for immediate gratification.
Okay, on this occasion, I'll let you have the last word, because I have to go.
Why you have to go?
To eat.
Okay.
All
right.
On your own.
No.
All right.
No. But we'll be on my channel tomorrow because I'm taking my second ketamine treatment tonight.
Okay then. Speak to you tomorrow.
All right. Bye.
Bye.